All right, YouTube. Let's talk another cartridge talk here. We're going to talk 308 Winchester versus 7mm-08 Remington. Two giants, in my opinion, in the hunting industry. 308 Winchester is one of the most iconic rounds ever out there. Really, it's a do-it-all cartridge. You can pretty much hunt anything with it, and it's very versatile. Now, should you hunt anything with it? No, but you pretty much can. Really, the most common bullet range weight is 150 to 175, right in there. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna compare a 150 grain with a 140 grain 7mm. So with a 150 grain, you're going to be getting right around 2950 down to right around 2800 in velocity with a 24-inch barrel. And that's pretty good. It's gonna, as you're gonna see, the 7mm-08 and 308 are very similar. Really, where the big difference is going to be, not big difference, but a little bit difference is going to be some energy downrange, and the 7mm might have a little bit higher BC depending on the bullet. And the big difference, in my opinion, is just the size of the bullet. So the 308 is going to have a little bit bigger bullet, so a little bit more, my opinion, I'm a more big fan. The bigger the bullet, the better. But that's up to you guys. The 308 does have a little bit more recoil than the 7mm-08. But let's talk about 7mm-08. 7mm-08, you're going to be getting right around, probably your max velocity. Your max would be 2900, and you're going to be right around probably 2750 to 2900 in velocity. So you're still pretty close to the 308. But you're losing a little less velocity with a 140 grain. And as obviously, if you went up to like a 150 to 165 or 168 7mm, you're going to lose even more velocity. But then again, your BC does come up with a 7mm bullet, so it does help you a little bit with that wind drift and stuff like that. But for ethical hunting, 500 yards and in, these two are almost going to be identical. As we're going to see in a chart coming up, but the BC is going to help you with a little less wind drift. They're almost, like I said, identical on trajectory, as we're going to see here. 7mm-08 is going to be a great round for younger people shooting, women, children, smaller stature people, going to be a little less recoil, but it is a great deer round. Even elk, I personally probably wouldn't try to take an elk with one, but you could. So that being said, all right, let's get into trajectory here. As we can see here, the almost, it's almost identical. The blue line, 7mm-08, the green line is 308 Winchester, and the trajectory almost dead on, right? I mean, you're pretty dang close, and that right there just shows the there's not much difference between these two. The 150 grain bullet's going to have a little more energy downrange, as we're going to see here in the next slide. All right, so 7mm-08 Remington in blue, 308 Winchester in green. And you can see at 200 yards, they're almost exactly the same in drop. At 300 yards, almost the exact same. 400 yards, pretty much the exact same. 500 yards, they're still both going to be 50 inches, right around 51 inches. So almost identical. And that's with the velocity at the muzzle with the 7mm-08, 2860, and the velocity of the 308 at 2920. So as you can see, the 7mm-08's a little bit more efficient just because of the little higher BC. But you're going to get a little bit better energy. So, at 100 yards, you can see for the 308, it's 2437, and 100 yards for 7mm is 2219. So you're going to get more energy on that target with the 308. And when it comes to hunting, that's really what I personally want. So I would go with the 308 in this situation here. Because really when it comes down to it, everything else is identical besides the energy downrange. So even at 500 yards, that's 1,253 for the 308 for energy, and the energy for the 7mm-08 is 1,233. So, you're pretty close as you go out in distance, because as further you go out in distance, the 7mm-08 is probably going to take over. But for, like I said, with ethical hunting distance, 500 yards and in, they're almost identical. The 308, in my opinion, is probably what I'd go with. It's going to have a little more energy, a bigger bullet, a little more expansion. And that's kind of what I got to say about 308 Winchester versus 7mm-08. They're really both such great rounds and pretty close to being identical. Now, you could go with different grain weights and mix and match and do all kinds of things. I basically went with a 140 grain nozzle ballistic tip for the 7mm-08 and the 150 grain nozzle ballistic tip for the 308, because those are the most common hunting weights usually for those calibers. And you can obviously go heavier, and you can obviously go lighter, and that would change kind of the skew. But that's kind of the comparison I feel for what these are used for hunting applications. And so really, in my opinion, they're pretty much a draw. If you're going to shoot a little bit bigger game, 308 I would go with, because a little bit more energy. And if you're going to just go out and do whitetail hunting, maybe the 7mm-08. Really, you can't go wrong with either one of them. You're going to be putting animals down with both of them, and 500 yards and in, they're identical, really. So, all right, guys. Thanks for watching. Comment and let me know what you guys think down below. I've kind of been trying to do a little bit more of these cartridge comparison. I know they're probably based a little bit off my opinion. I try to take my opinion out of these. Yeah, guys. All right. I'll catch you later.